all of Europe was basically Germanic.
Right.
Switzerland and Austria. That was all of the German Empire at one time, and then they broke up into Austria, Switzerland, and they went around like that. So we were a Germanic heritage.
Right.
Okay, and then
So then it's your grandmother on the Klomp side was the Irish.
She's the Irish English.
Okay.
Irish English.
Okay.
Okay.
This is great because my aunt just dusted off our family tree and history and stuff, and she's
Yeah.
adding Alyssa to it and some of my nephews to it, and
Yeah,
is sending us a copy now.
Yeah.
these things get mixed up after
They
a
do.
while.
Yeah, cause see, he's mostly German, but there's some English
My mom, English or Irish?
and Irish or something like that,
Yeah.
but mostly German. Well, Miller.
But yeah, Miller comes from being a miller. Miller and Sons. What do you think that was? They
Yeah.
made horseshoes. That's probably what they did.
Probably.
Okay.
So
Either that or they made bread flour.
Grain.
well, they could do
The
that,
mill.
but
'Cause I think the other one was well, wasn't horseshoe? Wouldn't that be a smith?
Okay, so I've got.
because
What was she?
if
She
they
was
made
Irish and what?
English.
Irish and English. I think
if
all
they
go
made
over
grain
there.
or something, their name would probably be Baker.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't they be a smithy
Kuka.
if they did the?
Kuka, that's for cook.
Ah.
Well, so I think a miller mostly probably had to do with horseshoes.
Not the blacksmith.
Though I found out last week,
Blacksmith is a blacksmith, but
my great grandfather did own a grain store in Oakland for years.
Miller Grain or something.
Yeah, could be.
Who
That-
knows? Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
and
was
he
that?
built 4 houses, and they lived in one, and they rented the 3 next to him when he died.
Who was that?
William
French
William
grandfather,
Gramps'
Rose,
Uh-huh.
Harry's father.
when he came to
So my
America here,
great grandfather.
he used to walk to work.
Yes.
Your great grand.
He was a craftsman.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, our General Motors cars are all by Fisher Body.
Okay.
My grandpa LaRose worked for the Fisher brothers.
Oh, really?
Downtown Detroit, he was a craftsman, wooden craftsman, finish carpentry, and he used to walk to work in the west side, the south side of Detroit. About 10 miles, 12 miles to work
Wow.
every day, up and back. There were no
Good
streetcars.
shit.
Then the biggest thing that ever happened to him was they got a streetcar. And the streetcar went so far, but then he'd walk the rest, and eventually the streetcar went all the way downtown. And when they started getting the streetcar, that gave him a whole bunch of time.
Mm-hmm.
So he started building apartments
Oh, excellent.
Really?
by hand, with his hands.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Every
awesome.
every function he did the electrical,
Plumbing,
the
and
plumbing,
wow.
he
Well,
did the plastering.
That's awesome.
I tell you what, in those days with no power saws and stuff, he's
That's-
cutting every one of those boards.
He must have been a
by
strong
hammering
man.
Every nail. Oh my goodness.
Hammer and nail.
Wow.
And then when he came over here, just for a little background, because he started building apartments, well, the first thing he did was he built himself. First thing was he had a house, and then he built himself, we used to call them flats, that would be rentals
Uh-huh.
on the next floor. Well then, you know, when the girls got bigger, and I had one uncle that survived, he was a pharmacist, but he moved out. But the girls usually stayed upstairs, and they worked and they paid money until they got married, you know. So, and then after they got married, my mother was the last to get married.
Oh, really?
Her younger sister got married before her, and she married a general in the Army,
Oh.
engineering.
Oh really?
He had something like 3 or 4 engineering degrees. He's a man, I couldn't talk to that guy. he come to visit me when I was in the Army. He said, "Where's the power plant?" I said, "Uncle Jim, I don't care. I don't know where the power plant is. That's all they care about. You want to go look at the power plant." So anyways, my uncle started building flats, you know, and renting them out. And my mother used to hate him for that because he spent all of his time working, you know, like that. And he'd come home late at night, get up early in the morning and walk to work or take the trolley. And then in the winter time, the pipes would freeze and he'd have to go over and fix them.
Right, yeah.
He was his own maintenance
Yeah.
man. So, but then he started bringing over relatives of his from Europe, and not even relatives, other people. Like they lived in Russia for a long time there. He brought over maybe a half a dozen Russian families, and they would come over. These were people that he had met that, you know, were having trouble. You had to have a sponsor, or you had to have some money to get out of Russia. So he used to bring these people over, and he brought a lot of Polish people. They lived in Poland for a while. They brought over Polish, and they brought over basically Polish and Russian. I don't remember anybody else there. My mother used to look down on them. And my mother would say, "Well, they come over, but they don't have any education, and all they do is clean house." Well, they would clean house and clean house and clean house and work very hard. And then what do? They save their money, save their money, save their money, clean house, clean house, clean house, get their own house, get their own car, kids go to schools, kids take music lessons, kids go to college. Pretty soon, what do? They announced, this one family, the first who really got to my mother, they announced, we're going back to Russia. You know, and she said, "Oh yeah." She says, "Yeah, we're going back for the whole summer." They went for 3 months because the school was off for their kids. They went back. Not only did they go back to Russia, but they took their new Cadillac with them.
Wow.
Hard Russia.
And my mother was so mad. I mean, we never had a Cadillac, but they had a Cadillac. There's, you know, they saved their money and worked
Right.
hard. So I used to say to my mother, "Ma, they work for it. Who cares? They work, they earned
Right,
it.
exactly.
They want a Cadillac, they can live in the Cadillac if they
Yeah.
want. I can sleep in the back seat," which I think they did a few times. You know, because they were big then. You know, big Buicks and big Cadillacs. I had a big Buick convertible. I could stretch out 6 foot and sleep in the back seat. You know? So that was
so
some of
funny.
the story on my mother's parents.
Yeah, I've never heard those stories.
Yeah, there's voluminous stories. There's voluminous stories. And they come back, and then one of the kids became a violinist.
The Russian family?
Juilliard School of Music. And I mean, very successful. You know, so you know, it's not so bad if you're poor, if you've got culture. You know,
That's
that
amazing.
means a little bit.
It does.
Awesome.
It does. What are you doing?
Showing Andrew how I have all 3 of you on this camera because Papa's reflection is in the mirror.
In the mirror?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. With this camera view, she has us in it and you, because it's reflecting off of the mirror.
Oh,
This mirror. Yeah.
It's very funny.
That's very talented,
What
Jennifer.
is so scary?
Very conveniently placed mirrors.
So now you have that story on.
Yeah.
Very good.
yeah, that was.